Hello and welcome to another episode of Blue Alpine TV. In today's episode, we will talk about why Bitcoin has dropped again. We'll talk about another blockchain ETF. We'll quickly look into what kind of developer conference is going on. And then the biggest news of the day, we'll talk about Samsung producing ASIC miners. So if we look at the market today, it looks really bloody again. We are reaching to the levels that we've had 1 or 2 weeks ago. It doesn't look that good, although the numbers were looking quite good the last couple of days. But it seems like both Bitcoin and the main coins are a bit struggling. Now, one of the main reasons that we believe this is happening is because the announcement that South Korea made in the last couple of days, which we reported, is in effect starting today. So beginning today, investors can no longer trade anonymously, so they must link their accounts with real name bank accounts. Foreign traders are also prohibited from accessing the markets. As you know, and as we've reported, in South Korea, there are strict anti-money laundering laws, and there is this KYC, Know Your Customer, practice that a lot of exchanges need to implement in order to let people invest. And especially since South Korea was or is one of the main markets that cryptocurrencies are traded in, this will have a huge effect because a lot of people have had accounts where they weren't verified or didn't really have to give any kind of information. So this definitely had a strong effect. It says in the article that Bitcoin's price has fallen below 11,000 once again. It could actually be that this time we are crossing this the 9.5, maybe even 9,000 line. As we've said in the previous day, between 8.5 and 15,000, Bitcoin will probably retest and play around until it crosses one of those barriers. And if it crosses the lower barrier, we'll probably enter a bearish market. If it crosses the upper barrier, we'll probably look at a more bullish market. Moving on, we are looking at another blockchain ETF that has launched. We've reported that NASDAQ and there were some ETFs launched on NASDAQ and other exchanges, and it looks like we will have another ETF that is tracking companies that is doing blockchain technology. So it's not an ETF, a traditional ETF that we would think about that tracks cryptocurrencies or is composed out of cryptocurrencies. No, it is actually one that is looking at companies that think about implementing blockchain technology. As you know, blockchain technology right now, super hot topic. And as soon as a company is actually thinking about or really researching in the blockchain area, this causes some positive effects on the stocks as well. So this ETF is doing that by tracking those blockchain companies. Now, what is special about this ETF is the firm backing the ETF said it is deploying artificial intelligence in a bid to track and include notable companies with an emphasis on stocks that have a current or future economic interest in blockchain technology. How exactly this is working, not really sure. Our proprietary patent-pending AI-based process allows us to better capture a full range of publicly traded companies that are developing, investing in, and utilizing this new protocol. So we don't really know exactly what kind of algorithm technology is behind picking this. Obviously, there is some automation going on so that if you are invested in this ETF, you don't have to take care of your investments as much. I think this is positive news. I think the more companies actually embrace blockchain as a technology, the better it is for the general market, because cryptocurrencies still have this weird connotation that because of the volatility and some really big frauds and scams and hacks going on, that it hasn't been properly legitimized yet. So a lot of people are still a bit on the trenches. But as we always say, don't invest into the price, into the volatility, invest into the fundamentals of the technologies you believe in. The next news story is not actually a big news story. I just wanted to let you know that Currently, there is the Devcon going on in San Francisco. It is until, I think, tomorrow, and it has already started. So the Devcon is basically a conference organized by NEO that allows developers to build on top of NEO and listen to some talks, meet the people, meet the founders, meet the technical people from NEO there. So if you're in San Francisco, make sure to drop by if you can. The speaker lineup is really interesting. There are some really interesting people speaking there. It could be that the tickets are already sold out. I only learned about this recently. However, I think in general, this will be quite interesting for the NEO ecosystem, because as you know, we always say, or currently one of the big trends that we believe in is platforms, and platforms like Ethereum, like NEO, where on top of them you can build applications, decentralized apps or smart contract apps. They will definitely build out the infrastructure of this blockchain ecosystem. So we believe that NEO, Ethereum, and all of these platform coins are actually good investments. Obviously, you need to do your own research and also sign up on bluealpineresearch.com, where you can really read into the research that we have done, and depending on that, do your investment. Now, moving on to the next and last but most important news story of the day. Samsung begins manufacturing ASIC chips for Bitcoin mining rigs. This is huge. So Samsung is one of the biggest technology companies in the world, supplying, be it for TVs, mobile phones, all of these things. And they are looking into supplying a Chinese company with ASIC chips. Now, the whole story about ASIC chips is that it's currently extremely expensive and very difficult to get proper ASIC chips to really mine for Bitcoin. The whole Bitcoin mining ecosystem has been quite, I want to say, almost centralized. So a few big players are mining the majority of Bitcoins. And one of those big players, or a few of these big players, is coming out of China. And by Samsung entering this market, it could actually become really competitive, because currently I think one of the main ASIC producers comes out of China. So if you want to mine Bitcoin in an efficient and cost-effective way, the best way is to buy these ASIC chips from China directly. However, there's a huge waiting line depending on the type of ASIC chip you're buying. So Samsung entering this market and working with a different Chinese company could actually force a bit of market share out of Bitmain, which is the main company. And this could really become interesting. So the prices will go down. What will happen with the mining? And as you know, we've reported China is cracking down also on mining parts. So they are probably doing local regulations on what is allowed, what isn't allowed, maybe even taxing some people and companies. So it's definitely going to be an interesting development to really look at what Samsung is doing. Unfortunately, they are not saying who they are working with directly, so we don't know. It doesn't state what hardware manufacturer Samsung is working with. It is likely that it could provide this firm with the ability to scale up its operations and challenge Bitmain's dominant market share. So this will become really, really interesting. And I think it's also interesting because one of the biggest hardware manufacturers is entering ASIC mining production, or generally entering the cryptocurrency from a different perspective. So we always talk about the software aspect, or maybe the broader economic aspect, but now we're really seeing bigger players moving into the hardware space, and this will become really interesting. So keep an eye out on this. And with this, we'll actually end today's episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps to spread the message. And I will see you tomorrow in the next episode. Bye.